Can the Seattle Kraken get back into the win column in the arena that Joey Daccord built? Well, we'll find out tonight as it's another game day for the Seattle Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day. I'm Erica L. Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, also a contributor to CBS Sports and the founder of Black Rosie Media, where we empower Black women and melanated creators in sports media. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers to FanDuel will get a $200 or get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. We'll hear a little bit about the FanDuel odds for the playoffs and even for this matchup later in the episode. Another Seattle Kraken loss. Was it full-on Seattle Kraken crap? Well, the team doesn't think so, and I suppose that's something. We did see the return of Jaden Schwartz. We talked about that potentiality on yesterday's episode. Philip Grubauer in net, and it was a much lower scoring affair, but almost eerily similar to the Vegas game in Seattle. And the Seattle Kraken were able to get an equalizer late in the third period, but then just really not giving any support to Philip Grubauer. A rush chance where basically walked in, more like steamrolled into a high danger area. I don't know what was going on with the defense, but, I could go on for days about defense when it comes to the Seattle Kraken. But, if the team felt that they had some fight, I'll take it. If, the team felt that they were able to battle back, sure. But that doesn't change the fact that there are things that the Seattle Kraken continue to do or don't do that puts them in situations where they have to battle back. I know a lot of people on social media kind of getting on Matty Beniers. I've seen the play a few times. Maybe I'll have to look at it a few more times. Of course, it's disappointing. You are in a high danger area, like right outside the blue paint, and you can't clap one home. Eberle passing that puck off to Matty Beniers. But I'm not sure if I want to blame his positioning or the pass. But either way, the pass or how Beniers touched it, how he received it seemed a little awkward, to say the least. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Should Beniers have been able to put that home? Was he in the right position, facing the right way? No, didn't look like it from the replay for me. And then people kind of saying, I think the broadcast seemed to think he was trying to pass that first. I don't think he was trying to pass it first. I think he realized that he didn't have a timely shot. The issue, though, is, was it trying to get a shot, maybe get that puck to ricochet off the goaltender, or was he trying a centering pass? Either way, Beniers either didn't know or wasn't fully conscious of the fact that there were no blue jerseys. Eberle had already skated off, and there was nobody else crashing the net with Beniers. I'm not as put out. I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this because it's extremely disappointing. You can get an equalizer there, maybe send it into overtime. We heard from Jaden Schwartz after the game, and he said, yeah, a little disappointing not to at least get to overtime there. But I don't know. I feel like the outrage that I've been seeing on social media versus what I saw on the play don't exactly match. But again, if the Seattle Kraken do a few things differently, maybe this is a different game, including we've been talking about it. I went on a rant the other day about, are we overthinking this? And the shots on goal in the first period, Vegas outshot the Seattle Kraken by 2-1, basically 12 shots for the Vegas Golden Knights, 6 shots for Seattle. Things evened out in the second period, 11 shots for Vegas, 10 shots for Seattle. Then it was 14 shots in the third period. I believe it was less than 3. I want to say maybe closer to 1 or 2 shots that the Seattle Kraken actually had on net at the halfway point of the third frame. You're down a goal. Find a shot. Do you want to say maybe this had a little bit to do with the suffocating defense of the Vegas Golden Knights? Maybe. And I know there was someone in the comments yesterday asking about Matty Beniers. I think if you watch this Vegas game, at least from what I saw at Pockets of Time, I was saying that I think Matty Beniers is an easy target. If you take Matty out of the game, then you're forcing McCann, Vince Dunn, who's not in the game or not available to us right now, and then pick your poison of someone else to maybe get some offensive threats. If you take Matty B out of the game, or you force him to play more of a facilitator role, force him to play more of that defensive centerman role, then you take him out of the offense. And I think that's what the Vegas Golden Knights have done this season. I think that's what the NHL is doing this season. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on why Matty Beniers hasn't been able to transition into this sophomore season with a little bit more offense? I'm not buying. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to say it at this point, but please, I'm not buying. Oh, well, he had to focus too much on being a centerman, too much on faceoffs. I've said it once. I'll say it again. If you're a top line centerman in the NHL, I think you should be able to take faceoffs. I think you should be able to play the defensive side of the game, because that's what your position calls for. If you want him to be offense only, then have him put him at wing. Put him at wing. Maybe keep McCann at center. Put Beniers at wing if you want him as a scoring opportunity option only. And maybe, honestly, that's something that we need to do. We talked about throwing spaghetti on the wall. I actually had a interesting conversation over on Locked On NHL for our women's hockey spotlight. You should check that out, where I make a joke about throwing spaghetti on the wall and with regard to the Seattle Kraken. But I don't know. Get that guy going. He was that guy for us last season. A lot of the time, I said that on way to Rookie of the Year. So I don't know. This was not. I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't painful because I was kind of expecting it. But it is also painful because that Jaden Schwartz goal, you think maybe there's some hope. And then you see the breakaway opportunity and Kolazar collecting. The Seattle Kraken did challenge that. Very close, but I believe it was the right call. And then an empty netter. The Seattle Kraken fall 3-1 to the Vegas Golden Knights. Doesn't help our cases and gets Vegas 2 points. And they're in the wild card position, like I said. So I know we have some everyday listeners that are content to not see the Seattle Kraken in the playoffs, but don't want to see Vegas there either. We had a chance to play spoiler and we didn't do it. So I know the LA Kings fans are probably looking at us like, come on, you can't do us a solid. I wish we could, but another Kraken game, but it's a quick turnaround because the Seattle Kraken will take on the Arizona Coyotes today. Again, the house that Joey Daccord built. Joey's coming into Mullet Arena, I think, in a very different circumstances than last time. I'm hoping that a familiar arena will give him the pep and the energy and just a clear mindset and a clean slate that he needs to to be re-energized, because between Philip Grubauer and Joey Daccord, the way that the Seattle Kraken need to play, I think leans toward Joey's game. Sometimes it comes across and he does make mistakes, an absent-minded mistake the other day. He got pulled from the game the other day. I get that. But if we get vintage Joey Daccord, that's excitement, that's energy, that's communication, that's facilitation from the defensive zone. And that's what's been missing from this Seattle Kraken squad. I think we overused Joey. I think it appears from a distance that he maybe got into his head a little bit. And at a time when the Seattle Kraken needs to win games, he happens to be in a slump when the Seattle Kraken have to take that short leash approach, which we've talked about throughout the season. It still matters because we're not mathematically out of it. We'll talk about some odds, as I said, later. But we need Joey Daccord. That's my opinion. And it's a long shot for us to make the playoffs. I would put some energy into getting guys that we need. Ty Cartier was creating chances, just couldn't quite get the finish. But again, in the zone, a lot of times by himself creating chances. We heard, again, the broadcast pointing out that Jaden Schwartz really putting his body on the line, being aggressive, making things difficult for Vegas by stepping up and going body to body, stick to stick, making sure nothing is easy for Vegas. We too often make things easy for our opponent. I think you got to really start at this point in time. I'm not saying you want to lose games. I'm not an advocate of the tank theory. We also talked about there's no tanking, anti-tanking in the PWHL. And I love it. And I didn't know that the NHL had been talking about this, I guess, for a number of years and just never implementing it. But listen to Locked on NHL because we get into that a little bit on the Women's Hockey Spotlight. But I'm anti-tanking. I think it's the stupidest. I really hate the mentality and the gameplay that's created by this whole tanking strategy. So anyway, and now I'm ranting. Coming up on the show, we'll hear a little bit from Jaden Schwartz, and then we will get you ready for the game day in the desert as the Seattle Kraken take on the Arizona Coyotes in, again, a familiar barn. Well, technically not a familiar barn, but a familiar campus to Joey Daccord, who we're assuming will be in net because the Seattle Kraken are on a back-to-back. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at Indeed. If you are looking to hire, then you need Indeed, because no matter how the last game went, Kraken fans, we're on a back-to-back. Anytime you take the field or the ice, you've got a shot at greatness. We need some of that greatness. So give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and even virtual interviews. And so what we want you to know is that for our listeners, you can start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked on. The offer is valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/locked on to claim your $75 credit before the end of the month, March 31st. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. All right, Seattle hockey fans, not what we wanted. Not at all what we wanted, but we soldier on. That's what this team does. Want to remind you, Locked On listeners, that if you are watching any of your major mainstream media networks, because of, I don't know, basketball or NHL, and you're kind of tired of all the shouting, Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. I think some of our hosts probably do scream. I try not to, but I mean, screaming and sports, they kind of go together. The point is, if you want to get straight to the topics at hand from knowledgeable sources across multiple leagues, multiple teams, then Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. And it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our team is struggling right now. 6-game skid. Not technically out of the playoffs, but it's pretty darn close. It's pretty darn close to over. We couldn't get it done in Vegas. A team that, as we talked about on yesterday's episode, has been struggling within their own right. And, we just couldn't get it done. We couldn't get it done. And that's what's disappointing, is that it's feeling like this is slipping away because we're just not putting in enough effort. But here's what Jaden Schwartz had to say after the game. He scored the lone goal for the Seattle Kraken in last night's 3-1 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights, again in regulation. So that means absolutely no points for the Seattle Kraken.
How does it feel good to score after kind of an injury layoff like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to come back and help the team out as much as you can. Thought overall it was back and forth game. Both goalies played good. Obviously could have gone either way. Would have been nice to take that in overtime. But I thought we did a lot of good things. I thought the energy was good. I thought we worked hard. And yeah, it's for me. I just want to come back and help the team as much as I can. Sorry.
This morning, Hextall said that it wasn't just the last matchup with the Golden Knights that stung. This whole week has kind of stung a little bit. Is that something you've observed as well?
Yeah, obviously it's frustrating, for everybody. We want to put our best foot forward, and, when things aren't going your way, it's easy to mentally get frustrated and have your mind go, different directions. But just got to stick together and climb out of this together and try to get some momentum going our way and some energy.
Thank you.
So again, the frustration, palpable, understandable, but they have to put that on the back burner because they're taking on the Arizona Coyotes. 61 points on the season. They have a 17-16-0 record at home. We are 14-13-6 away. 5-5-0 for the Coyotes. So right down the middle in their last 10 games. 3-6-1. That's hard to look at. That's tough to see for the Seattle Kraken in their last 10 games. Jared McCann continues to be our points leader, 53 points. Clayton Keller holding it down with 60 points for the Coyotes. Ow! Power play, 22.3% clip for the Arizona Coyotes. Their PK at 76.2. We have a 79% even clip at the PK penalty kill. Again, Jaden Schwartz just showing the tenacity that's needed to not just be great on the PK, but overall. Our power play, 21.3%. So we're a scotch below the margins there. As I mentioned, expecting to see Joey Daccord in net because it's a back-to-back, and also, he played relatively well. Talked about it being an emotional game for him last time the team was at Mullet Arena. I'm hoping that means good things for Joey. We know he needs a bounce back. It's been a tough go since the All-Star break, really, for Joey Daccord. And you see that it's also been a tough go for the Seattle Kraken since the All-Star break. So, let's get back to January 1st, right? Let's get back to seeing the Seattle Kraken and that energy and that just celebration, that the fun. I talked about it last episode. That's what's been missing is the fun. And I don't know, Joey Dax, he's a fun guy. He's a fun goalie to watch. And I hope that we get to see him in action. We know that he can also be very clutch down the road. We saw him do that with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Coming up next on Locked on Kraken, we'll do a quick check-in on Coachella Valley and what they've got going on, what the playoff picture is looking like for them. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked on Kraken. Today's episode of Locked on Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We know what time of year it is, and it's time for you to say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game in the tournament. So you don't have to worry about busted brackets anymore, whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed. It's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, that's right, new customers, get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Who you got, fam? Let me know in the comments. I'm watching the women's bracket. Ooh, I think maybe we get a new champion. So I'm not going with LSU. Maybe not even South Carolina. I don't know. Let's find out. We'll watch the games, see what happens. More Locked on Kraken coming up. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. If you've been listening on your favorite podcast platform or here on YouTube, then you know we just talked about FanDuel. Oh, FanDuel and the playoff odds. Playoff odds for the Seattle Kraken right now to make the playoffs. First of all, let's just start with Vegas. Vegas making the playoffs a -770, not making the playoffs a +470. The LA Kings, who again we did not do any favors, to make the playoffs a -5,000, no +1,300. Oh boy, I mean it's tough to see the Seattle Kraken fall out of the conversation in what feels like a very swift amount of time. But again, even though it's concentrated right now on what's happening and it's disappointing, this has been indicative, it's residual of what we've seen all season. Still at a 0.1% to make the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights, 87.1%. So we're not really doing too much to help the cause of getting them out of playoff contention. 96.7% odds for the LA Kings, who I'm keeping an eye on mostly because of our good friend Blake Bolden, who was on the broadcast in between the benches. I'll just say it this way. Whatever was on the broadcast versus what the broadcasters might have been prepared to talk about, it's different. I know that from my own experience. And so, I mean, producers a lot of the times get final word on what storylines are put on the air. So I'll just say it like that. You can read between the lines if you want to there, but let's just go over the standings as we go into this game. The Seattle Kraken I mentioned their away record. They are 28-12 right now, 68 points, 6th place in the wild card position behind Calgary, Minnesota, St. Louis, Vegas, and Nashville. So at this point, if we can't get it done, I'm definitely rooting for the St. Louis Blues, which I wasn't saying about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. If you look at the the division, Seattle just a scotch ahead of the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. Anaheim, 51 points. They won their last outing. The Seattle Kraken with 68 points. San Jose, 39 points. But let's talk about standings that maybe will make you smile. And that's when we have to go to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. They got 2 goals in an overtime winner over the Stars. And the Seattle Kraken affiliate in the American Hockey League. You got to remember, we took on the Hershey Bears, went the distance in that series. And oh man, some of those overtimes were brutal. But the Hershey Bears already punched their ticket to the postseason in the Atlantic Division. They are 44-11 and 93 points on the season. So they're looking primed to make a deep run if they can keep it all together. In the Central Division, we talked with Ann Kimmel about the Milwaukee Admirals. I still can't get over that refrigerator logo. That's probably one of the coolest things and most random things I've ever seen. But they are atop the Central Division. And then who do you think is at the top of the table in the Pacific Division? That's right. If you guessed your Coachella Valley Firebirds, you'd be absolutely correct. 37-13-5. 37-13, 5-3, 82 points on the season. The Colorado Eagles right behind or are behind us with 76 points, but they're fighting off the Tucson Roadrunners at 75 points on the season. The Ontario Reign, 70 points. The only other team at 70 points or better in the Pacific Division is Bakersfield, the Condors, 70 points exactly. So looking good for the Seattle affiliate. I almost said the Seattle Kraken. For our Seattle affiliate, I'm curious to see how things go. I'm curious to see how things go because the Seattle Kraken, they are going to be in a situation where players like Riker Evans might want to head back to the AHL for a spell and help them with a playoff run. I think that experience is going to only help him. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. But the Firebirds, we know that they're going to be hosting the AHL All-Star Classic, so that's going to be exciting. And let's take a quick look at their schedule for the remainder of March. So today, the 22nd, they're taking on the Condors at Bakersville. Then they will take on the Texas Stars on Saturday at home. And they'll be away taking on the Calgary Wranglers Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And they'll close out March on the 31st playing the Henderson Silver Knights. There goes that pesky affiliate. They will be taking on the San Jose Barracuda at home on April 4th. And for those who maybe haven't seen, Akeem Aliu signed with San Jose. So if you got a chance, maybe check out our good friends. We talked about them yesterday, Gametime, but check out some tickets. That's our show, folks. Let's see what the Seattle Kraken can do. Again, expecting Joey Daccord and net. I just want them to have a good time. Get reset, get back to basics. And the same goes for you. Remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, one another, random strangers. Just spread love. Spread love. All right. And today we say loud and proud, hold fast, stay true. And of course, let's go Kraken. I am expecting to do some shows over the weekend, so stay tuned for that. Either way, I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.